So let me ask this. You were multiple administrations, as we had been told, had plenty of opportunities to take Soleimani out and chose not to. I don't know where side of that decision or debate you were, but walk me through why the administration you were involved with, whether it was while you were at CIA or at Defense, when that option was ever debated, why didn't you take it?
Well, it wasn't debated, Chuck, and the reason it wasn't debated is that there was understandable concern that if you try to go after and kill a high-ranking general in a country like Iran, that you're going to increase the risk of war with that country. And the decision was made that that risk, frankly, wasn't worth it.
Now, how do you assess the Iranian response, and how should the U.S. government, if you were there, how would you advise the president to read the Iranian response?
Well, you know, I give some credit to Iran. I think this was a smart move to basically do a symbolic attack, firing those missiles, but not hitting any of our armed forces, or not hitting any Iraqis as well, but just sending a signal that they obviously had that potential and they were firing it from Iran. It was a very symbolic step that obviously pleased, I'm sure, the Iranians, who thought that this represented an effort at retaliation. But at the same time, it also sent a signal that they were trying to de-escalate the friction between Iran and the United States. I think it's smart for the president to recognize what Iran was doing here, trying to step back from the brink. But the whole question right now is whether this president is going to take advantage of it, or whether in the end nothing is going to change in terms of how the United States approaches Iran, and nothing will change with regards to how Iran approaches the United States. I still think both countries are dug in on a strategy and a policy that isn't going to produce any kind of negotiated settlement here.
Hello, YouTubers. If you're watching this, it means you've checked out our channel, so thank you. Now do me a favor, subscribe by clicking on that button down there. Click on any of the videos to watch the latest interviews and highlights from MTP Daily and MSNBC. You can get more Meet the Press content every morning in the First Read newsletter. If you're tired of content that you don't know anything about where it came from, you don't have to have that problem with us. NBC News, MSNBC, MTP, and the Meet the Press mindset right here for you on YouTube. Subscribe now.